Hello there. Welcome to the Cultist cast. Praise be. Hallelujah. Uh, hallelujah. Like the song. I didn't even
How
mean to do that.
how have neither one of us thought of that when coming up with
No
cultist
idea.
stuff?
Really dumb. I mean, we are mostly doing this as a joke, but I figure why not take that negative term people throw around for the Snyder cult and just use it to highlight stuff that's good. Actually, keep watching this channel. We're going to try and do our best to highlight fan art and fan films and, all these things that the fans have been doing and kind of give it more of we want to unite you guys. You guys can see each other's work and realize that you're not alone. You're not broken. You just like really popular, cool movies by a badass director who has managed to not turn out to be a rapist or a serial killer. And let's be real, in Hollywood, after like a decade, if you haven't been outed, it's impressive because it seems like everyone has some type of skeleton in their closet. Anyway, today's episode, they've been saying, hey, Willem Dafoe is Vulko. What a terrible casting. What a wasted casting. Who casts Willem Dafoe, beloved actor, especially of the comic book genre, in such a weird role within the DC universe? And of course, it's always followed up with, he should have been the Joker, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And first of all, I just want to point out that to be cast in a role, the actor has to agree. So he saw the pitch, he saw the idea, and he said, "I would like to do that." But I think a lot of people are basing it on his more limited screen time and the more cartoony, over the top Aquaman movie. Very successful, but undeniably, basically Star Wars Clone Wars underwater. Not that that's bad. It's successful, but it is different from what we saw in Zack Snyder's Justice League of like an ancient, medieval, textured, Arthurian thing. So I wanted to point out that Willem Dafoe basically plays underwater Merlin the Magician, helping train King Arthur to reclaim the throne, get rid of his evil half brother, and take the kingdom back from an oppressive regime that had his mother killed and tried to kill his birth father.
Yeah.
When you stop thinking of it as he played, wet Alfred functionally, and instead you're like, oh, he's Merlin the Magician of the underwater ocean.
And even then, he's the one who trained Arthur on how to fight.
Yeah. And I think once you reframe it, though, it's like he's Merlin the Magician
Yeah.
of myth.
He's like the Ra's al Ghul of Aquaman.
Yeah. He's Alfred and Ra's al Ghul fused into one character. He's the dude who knows all the myths. He's got the dialogue he has when Chris Terrio's writing it, right? For like for the Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's like,
King who would be man, son of a human father and queen of the seas. It's your inheritance. You're the rightful king of Atlantis. The Snatchers have come from the dark place. They're looking for it. The mother box our people guard is not safe. The time has come. Take up your mother's trident.
he's just like, he's delivering these Shakespearean soliloquies that are beautiful. And it paints a picture that we don't really get in the one that James Wan ended up making, which isn't, by the way, what James Wan originally even wanted to make.
Yeah.
He originally wanted to make, quote, the darkest DC movie ever made, the likes of which Tim Burton would be shocked by.
Yeah.
And that's clearly not what he made. And he still wanted to make the Trench movie after it with Black Manta. And even on Aquaman 2, he's had to do 3 different reshoots over the course of 2 years. Long story short, we're supposed to get that darker Arthurian take on Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
So Aquaman 1 would have been like that. So Vulko probably would have had a bigger role of being like that Merlin the Magician figure who's like, I'll help navigate the politics. Arthur, you're the man who would be king. You need to step up. You need to claim this mythic weapon that only the next ruler of Atlantis can have, and don this king's armor and come out here and save the day and rid the world of evil. That is such an Arthurian legend. It's so on the nose. That's what Dafoe signed up for. So when people are like, well, why would he do that? Because they pitched him on that.
Yeah, also, like, Cloud Chance Meatballs. That was a...
Wow, okay.
Yeah. They wanted Neil Patrick Harris to voice the main character. he turned down the role of the main character to voice the monkey because he said, I want to be the monkey. That sounds fun. It's not that he is like they're wasting Neil Patrick Harris on being a monkey and having Bill Hader play the main character. It's that he signed.
It was Bill Hader.
Yeah, he signed up to be the monkey, and he got to do the role he wanted. And he, you can choose whatever role you want. And there's like a common acting term. There's no small roles, just small actors. Like any actor, like Breaking Bad, the guy who just like dings the bell.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is such a good actor that he, like, you get emotion and you totally understand what he's going about when all he can do is ring a bell and make kind of grunty faces.
Yeah, and unless you watch Better Call Saul, then you see him acting.
But even then,
outside of that, but yeah, no, he can emote without speaking to you, really.
Yeah. So when people are like, I can't believe they gave Willem Dafoe just such a small role, it's like,
he crushed it though.
Yeah, he crushed it. 2, it's the role he wanted.
Exactly.
3, why would you like if he only? Because if he was like, I only want to do this much of a movie or this much of a franchise, I don't want to get roped into a huge contract or a huge anything.
Yeah.
Why would saying no? You have to be the Joker or you have to be whoever.
Yeah.
That would be more likely for him to say, okay, then I won't do it.
Maybe that's why people come up to me and say, you know what role you'd be perfect for? The Joker. Always nice to hear that you got the vibe of a sociopath.
Yeah, and that's another good point. If there have been a lot of actors who refused to be roped, like they didn't take a role because it was like, well, and there's a potential you'll show up this many more times. And they're like, no, I want to do this movie, and I want to be able to, if something better comes along in the future, hop onto that.
Edgar Wright turned down Ant-Man because, like, oh, it's going to be part of a huge universe. You have to rope it into everything else. And he was like, no.
Yeah. And
it's not that they, like, it was beneath him. It's that that's not what he wanted. And they couldn't make a compromise that worked for both of them. So they went separate ways.
There's actually been a lot of both Marvel and DC actors who turned down roles because they didn't want to get roped into, like, a decade of contracts that basically will right now maybe there's not something more fun that they want to do, but 5 years from now maybe there is, and they can't because they're doing this, and that would suck. As like you're spending years of your life, like if you just shoot a movie, filming and then promoting that movie is like a year of your life minimum. So you have to say, what is worth 365 days of my life that I will never get back? What is worth the effort I will put into it? What is worth all of that comes, like if you take on like a character role that's like in prosthetics, like if you're playing Spawn, you're agreeing to every day wake up early and spend hours in a prosthetics booth. So that movie better be bulletproof good. So maybe they're like, hey, you want to do character X, Y, or Z? They'll be mocapped, they'll be this, they'll be Davy Jonesed out, whatever. Maybe he's like, I don't really want to spend hours in a makeup booth at my age. I'd rather show up, you kind of make sure I look pretty, you put the wig on me, and I step out, I say my lines, and I'm done. That's my daily routine. Don't give me anything bananas. Don't make me like the big villain where I have to learn stunt choreography. Just let me show up, chew up a scene. Like in John Wick, he's a side character, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I'm almost heartbroken that he's not in the rest of the movies because he's so good.
Yeah.
But that absence serves the story purpose of like, well, you're watching his friends drop like flies throughout the franchise. And it serves the synthesis of the story for John Wick, Yeah. So, like you said, there's no small roles. And if someone said, hey, I think if Stanley Tucci can do it, then Willem Dafoe can do it, right? Like if you need a guy who can step up there and really crush, you've got him. Like, if you told me I have those two guys on retainer, if I'm ever like, oh my God, this person dropped out, I need an actor to fill the role, and I have both of them on speed dial and they'd love to say yes to me, I'm never worried again. So the fact that we had in an already stacked cast with Jeremy Irons, and, you've got Ben Affleck, you've got Gal Gadot, people like to hate on her, but she is a big movie star.
Yeah.
You've got Jason Momoa, you've got Henry Cavill. So when people are like, I can't believe they didn't waste Willem Dafoe. Or you could argue the change in tone was wasting Willem Dafoe, but then you're saying that defying the Snyder tone was a mistake. And I don't think most of those people are willing to ever admit that out loud. Aquatic Merlin the Magician is a rad as hell concept. And you can't be more on the nose about King Arthur than King Arthur Curry of Atlantis. It's a dope concept. Actors don't want to just play the same character over and over again. And let's be real, he'd be better off in an Elseworld as Joker, as a one-off story, not as a, here's a decade and a half of you having to keep up with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, and you would kind of feel bad that, like, a jacked, like Batfleck Batman
Couldn't beat a 65-year-old.
Like, at that
Joker.
point, him beating up the Joker, you're like, okay, that's not even fair.
Yeah, this is kind of gross. It's one of the things that, like, whoever they were going to cast, and again, I do think Ryan Gosling, their first choice was the better Joker casting. I think you need that jacked, scary, sort of like what the animated The Batman did, of like, oh, no, he is a physical rival in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can hold his own. He's chaotic enough. Batman has a hard time tracking him because he defies, detective work ways of tracking someone because he's unpredictable. And even his fight style is unpredictable. And he's got goons galore and bullets. And even if you know he's got bullets and how he's going to use them, you still have to not get shot and die, which is not easy. So I just think people are wrong about Vulko when they say, what a wasted thing. And I think that's almost as ridiculous as recently they've the online kerfuffle has changed from Zack Snyder's to grim, dark, and serious to his movies were too cartoony and over the top. And I'm like, bitch, you can't say both. Pick one. You spent a decade saying one, you're safer going back to that. But if you abandon that for your new narrative, I'm going to use your own complaint saying he's too serious and like cares too much about epic stuff. I'm going to use your own tweets to debunk your tweets. And also, I'm going to go ahead and say, I like the idea that some of the Atlanteans use that weird Atlantean, like, dolphin language whenever they're underwater, because that would be how sounds would be transferred, and it's a coded language that no one except for their Secret Service understands. And it totally actually makes sense, and I dig that. James Wan talked about potentially doing that for a while, too, until they were like, we're just going to have them talk. Like, if you just don't think about it, just don't think about it. Like, don't think about why Topher Grace's Eddie Brock didn't show up in No Way Home, but Tom Hardy's did. Don't think about it, because if you think about the premise for half a second, you'll realize we're bullshitting you.
Yeah, I would kind of, how I would have filmed an Atlantean secret code, I would have had it be where, like, soldiers are, like, sneaking up on, like, something, and they're, like, underwater, gonna sneak up on, like, a Black Manta's base or something, and you see, like, two muscles in the neck just, like, flex, and you hear, like, a whale, like...
Oh, like the Mutos from the 2014 Godzilla.
Potentially. But then, like, you see another soldier, like, off in the distance, and, like, then you hear from them go...
Yeah, I would like some spooky, dark, deep Cthulhu whale stuff.
Yeah, and then maybe, like, it's so low that normally can't hear it, but Black Manta has, like, a machine that's, like, picking it up.
Like those sounds that are, like, unexplained. People think they're probably just, like, icebergs.
The blip.
Yeah, like the tectonic plates shifting or icebergs crashing, but when you hear it through, like, a microphone underwater, it sounds like Cthulhu is swearing at you, and it triggers something primal in my soul that says, leave this planet before it finds you.
Yeah.
That stuff would
like
have been...
that writing prompt that was like, we finally get like, after sending a whole bunch of signals out, we finally get a signal back from aliens that says, be quiet or they'll hear you.
Yeah. Like that feeling of, like, you're not alone. And that's not a good thing, which I loved the way that the Snyder movies do. Like, Zod's first appearance is, you are not alone. And it's scary. And then by Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's like, I'm not alone. And it's a positive message of, like, you're not alone. You're right.
Yeah.
I love that shit, man. So, I love it. It's layers. The message has a character arc. The message has a character arc. That's crazy. That is stupid, crazy town, banana pants, insane. Who does that? I love it. Anyway. But yeah, Vulko is a badass. Willem Dafoe is a badass. He's badass in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He's cool in the Aquaman movie. Like, I don't have any gripes. He doesn't shine. But he, in the limited screen time they gave him just to volley up the Atlantean politics in Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's so good. I will not defend Zack Snyder's choice to let Amber Heard try and do that British accent. That was dog shit. The second she did it, he should have said, never mind. Do the American accent. This is horrible. Like, I won't defend that one, but I will defend Vulko because there's nothing wrong with anything Dafoe was doing.
Anyway, Cultist cast.
Yep, we're gonna have to come up with like some type of fake fanatical like chant or like religious mantra. I mean, it took us this long to come up with the Hallelujah thing that was staring us in the face this whole time. So
Yeah, so I imagine by the time like we're ancient and like they're on their third Superman reboot, we'll be like,
there is a. I will say, you just reminded me. One of the dudes from 300, who is old now, like a white beard, is the new. He's the third actor to play King Atlan or whatever, like the original dude who had the trident in like the time against young Darkseid. He's the third dude to play the guy in as many appearances, but he's the guy who like gets the scar over like his face and like he takes his son to war with him and everything. So they cast the 300 actor to play him, and he's actually kind of my favorite casting choice on that. Like, how did we not think to cast the 300 actor? Like Gerard Butler as King Atlan would have been rad too. Maybe they were saving him for something else, like Allfather or something. It is kind of cool that Juan was like, all right, we're recasting again for some stupid reason. 300 actor. Like, that's cool. I like that. That's a good choice. But yeah, Vulko rules. End of recording.